Hi there, partners. I'm Mr. Juice, and I'm the new CEO of the Tactical Crouch Podcast. As you know, the Tactical Crouch Podcast is the premier Overwatch podcast in all the land, even if our hosts aren't plat. They're worse. Now, you may be asking yourself, what does a podcast need a CEO for? And to that I say, shut your mouth, kid. Now, we have some amazing hosts for our show still. We have the knowledgeable of everything technical, Kickedtripod.
What you do is you create the mix and you put it in a waffle maker, and it's called a chaffle. And then you just put like bacon, eggs, sausage. It feels like something that should like go on the midnight menu at KFC.
We've got the juice dispenser himself, Yiska.
Here's the problem. TCP has the magical powers of having news dropped sort of shortly before we go live, right? Either the day before or the hour before. We necessarily, we are in a position where our takes are half-baked, right?
And then, rounding it off, we've got the big brain of Overwatch himself, Volamel.
This match. Please remind
everybody but me, everybody but me, everybody but me. It's everybody but me. God, please forsake me. Strike me down with heavenly fury.
Oh, looks like Volamel's actually calling me right now on my cellular device. Let's go ahead and pick it up and see what he has to say. Hello.
Hey, Mr. Juice, right? Kickedtripod gave me your number and said to call you if I needed anything.
Can I help you with anything?
Well, you see, I'm gonna need more plaid shirts.
Oh, well, I don't see why not.
And some plaid sheets, pillows, and blankets for my bed behind me in the shot.
All right, don't you think that's a little, too much?
I'm also gonna need somebody to come to my house and paint all these ugly walls plaid. Do you know anybody who could get me Irish or Scottish citizen?
I think I'll call him back. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, Tactical Crouch Podcast. Now, for those of you who've been fans for a long time, you know that the Tactical Crouch Podcast has a premier lineup of guests that they bring on to the show, like Overwatch League General Manager Kuki for the London Spitfire.
Trust the process is a thing that we say in Cloud9, so go for it. Trust the process.
Or you have Overwatch League caster Avril.
Thank you very much. That's high praise. You just ended it at caster. I'm like, whoa, damn, that's... I don't know if I can live up to that. Thank you very much. Glad to be back on the show. You know, I'm always happy to come on, talk about Overwatch and whatever you guys want.
Overwatch Contenders NA and EU caster Trid.
Hi, thanks for the intro. I'm not really a guy who usually has a plan, so you've already led to your audience, but thank you for the introduction nonetheless.
And rounded it all out, you've got Overwatch League analyst Reinforce.
Something to admit, like your intro song like actively haunts me in my everyday life.
Now that's a star-studded lineup if I've ever seen one, and it brightens up the show like the sun brightens up my 1995 Chevrolet on a hot summer day in Texas. But Mr. Juice, I hear you ask through your mouthful of chicken tendies, what do the real fans think of the Tactical Crouch Podcast? Well, don't take my word for it as the CEO. Why don't you hear from one of our real fans who sent in this message earlier today?
I love Tactical Crouch. It's my favorite Overwatch podcast, and you should watch it too.
Alright, did they do it? Good. You can untie his family right now. Yeah, just make sure that they know that if they go squealing to the cops, there will be some consequences and you will be repaying them a visit. Got it? Alright, good. Oh. Sorry about that. See, everyone loves the Tactical Crouch podcast, and you can too. All you gotta do is you gotta hit that subscribe button on the YouTube, hit that little bell, and follow us on Twitter. That way, you will be always in the know of when Tactical Crouch will be going live and giving you that sweet, sweet Overwatch juice. Delicious.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 100. What a way to go, Kenobi.
What a guy, man. What a guy. We've just been blessed with like great content of the people that we regularly have on.
Really do.
This goes directly into the Hall of Fame next to Baroy's like little dance and stuff. It's already law. It's already law.
Yeah, it's good. Anyways, yeah, so if you want to support the show, we now have to pay a CEO salary. So Patreon, patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. That's where you can go. Hey, chat. How you doing? Whew. Man, I laughed so hard. No joke, when I got the video for it, I was actually driving on the way to a funeral. I was watching it.
That's a weird
had my
primer.
AirPods on, and I was laughing.
That's good.
So hard. So good therapy on that day. Absolutely. But hey, everybody, welcome to episode 172 of Tactical Crouch. Good to see you. Kickedtripod, Yiska, Volamel, the crew. We're all here. Before we get started, just a big thank you to our patron producers: Refined Bean, Ferdino, Battlecrab, Lotion, Rex Zane, Sir Girthalot, Pork Chop, Sammy, Kasha67, Shara, Nathan, Your Misery, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Chris R34444, Bronzebot, Boo How, and Hotel Bravo 11. Thanks so much for supporting the show. If you want to support the show, help pay CEO Juice's salary, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We appreciate it.
Drink the juice out of a mug.
I
told him he should have just spilled it.
I wish he had the your big pitcher. He like threw the big Brita pitcher.
Like a Brita pitcher. Yeah.
I mean, that's acceptable.
No, it's not.
I guess we all a little. I mean, you know what's also not acceptable? Eating string cheese square. That's also not acceptable.
Nobody. It is if you're older than 9. Just saying.
Yeah, someone banned this man from food. You're just banned from fruit.
It's a juvenile,
food, not fruit.
Fruit.
Cheese is not a fruit. No.
What is it?
Maybe it is in America. I don't know. Like pizza is also a vegetable, right? So
hey, cheese is one of the biggest parts of a food pyramid.
Right next to Lay's potato chips and Snickers candy bars.
Yep.
There you go.
As much bread. The bread is the foundation of the pyramid.
True. Bread, pasta, carbohydrates in general.
Which I learned. I can't remember what the trivia on this was, but it was something like the Department of Agriculture put together the food pyramid idea.
Oh, really?
So like that's why it is.
So you're telling me to look into it?
Maybe slightly skewed towards certain foods, more than slightly.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways, we've got a lot to talk about today, and there's a lot that you guys need to bring me up to speed on. I haven't gotten to watch very many of the games because, obviously, but a lot of really interesting results over the weekend. Before we do, though, we had a little birthday in the house yesterday.
Oh, God.
Happy birthday, Yiska. 44 years old.
Doesn't look a day over 18.
Yeah, no, I do. But yeah, no, I don't feel like, I turned 34. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that's when someone asks you, how old are you? And you go, I'm in my early 30s. That's a lie. That's now a lie. We can all agree 34 is not it is mid 30s. Yeah. That's the difference. Everything else in between, I think like 40 will be like rough once again. Until then, I'm chilling. I already got the knock-on effect of 30, which is basically like you wake up in the morning when you turn 30 and all your like bones just like turn brittle and you're suffering from osteoporosis almost immediately. But after that, after like those nerve ends die, you can actually quite enjoy your 30s. So... Also, I saw something really depressing on my birthday. I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed. It was just my birthday. I look at, and there's this science writer I follow, And there's apparently like, you know how the happiness curve used to be like people were happy in their 20s, then it would go down because like having children is stressful, and then it would go up towards the 60s again.
Mm-hmm.
Reproducibility crisis. You're never going to be more happy than in your 20s. So enjoy your time, chat.
Oh, my 20s suck, so I'm screwed.
Well, there's
all
always some
from here,
variance.
is what he's saying. Or it's all downhill from the bottom of the hill. I'm digging a hole, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I just like enjoy yourselves in your 20s, guys. It only happened once.
Or you could just enjoy yourself all the time, not hedonistically, just general.
True.
I don't conform to your means of production and whatever. I can't think of other big words.
Just be happy. It's so easy, guys. Why don't you just be happy all the time?
Yeah. You ever tried working out?
Why do you choose to be sad? I'm being very sarcastic right now. So I want to make sure that nobody thinks that I actually believe that. Just because I know someone will be like, that's really insensitive. Some people can't control. Like, I know. Anyways. But try to be happy when you can.
Yiska, do you actively remember how old you are? Is that something you can just like tell somebody like, oh, how old are you? You're like, oh yeah, 34. Really?
Wait. Oh my god.
Because I definitely don't.
Wait, John, am I weird for this?
No, I don't think you're weird.
There's no way that remembering how old you are is weird. Can we please weird champ
Bro,
Joe in chat?
Yes, I'm probably in the minority here, but I like actively do not keep it on hand.
Up until about 2 years ago, I think I did. I think once I hit like 29, I was like, I'm almost 30. And once I hit 30, I definitely stopped remembering. That just sounded really weird coming out of my mouth, actually.
Yeah.
I might actually need to take the rest of the show off. I don't think I was ready to ready to say that. But anyways, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Yiska. Yeah, we've got a few things to talk about before we get into kind of all the stuff that we normally get into.
Do you want me to give you the elevator explanation of what happened in the last week?
Yeah, I have some questions for somebody who is...
I mean, it's pretty short. It's basically, Scrimbux, baby! Woo!
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to ask, is like, looking at the results, do you feel like the Scrimbux that you were sold are valid and accurate and tradable at most currency exchanges?
You missed your hits. But I think eventually, like, I feel good about Gladiators punching back. I feel semi-good about Rain coming back.
Definitely.
The rest, I told you guys, Happy was nuts. Happy is nuts. I told you guys that Piggy's Sigma is incredible. Piggy's Sigma is incredible.
I think that's
what you. Houston was good. Houston is good. I told you the JJANGGU zone is back. The JJANGGU zone is back. The one thing that I couldn't anticipate is how quickly Philly improved. Like, that one completely out of left field. And the fact that they are this good at this time is insane. And I think the only destabilizing effects that this team could realistically suffer from this year is once you trickle in the new members and they want to play and you want to incorporate them. But Jesus Christ, they so quick and like 9K. Come on, dude. Like, am I the only one that perceives this to be the Krusty's disciple arc of the Overwatch League narrative? Like, you're telling me that 9K travels out to already is really good last season, then like brings it to APAC, is now really good once again. Also, keep in mind, go back to the technical crouches back in the day. I told you this guy is the closest thing we have to Krusty. And then the other best team on the other side of the planet is Houston. Who are they coached by again? Two disciples of Krusty. So I don't know what to tell you guys, but like, this is the arc. This is the narrative.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Gotta beat the master. Do you want to do like a lightning recap of week 1?
I want to.
You?
I want to see why this thing isn't working, and then I do.
Okay, sweet. Then I guess like a lot of teams played within. I think Dallas was better than expected by a bit, even though I think
I'd say by a long shot.
Let's go for a second before we even talk about results, because I want to go and I spend a little time and have some questions.
Okay.
As you get me caught up, but can we just talk about what's going on with Hangzhou right now?
Yeah, the news is definitely worth talking about, because if Yiska's gonna toot his own horn, I think this is another one where he probably needs to. The Spark imploding already.
Oh, I mean, should we talk about this? Should we talk about how I called that from a mile away once again?
Sure.
Okay, so did we do this on the show? I honestly can't recall, because we did this before we started our power rankings. We had the Crouchies, right?
Yeah.
And we had one of the awards where we said first coach to be fired.
Oh, yeah.
I think we came to the consensus that would have been to mean. I said there's exactly one answer. Exactly one.
Uh-huh.
You can scroll up in your chatty chat. Scroll up. Actually, I'm going to do it right now. No, shit. I actually told that to you guys in voice. Oh, well, okay, now I'm at the whims of these guys' memory.
No, he did.
He definitely said nothing about that. He said Krusty probably gone first.
And not okay, good. Let me be really clear here. It is not simply because of the ability that I think Pagion has as a coach. But if you have that much budget, do this badly in scrims in the preseason, and then not deliver there, have a completely disjointed team identity, you have situations where, like, I think there was a breaking point between the Takoyaki and Gushue thing is what is... Okay, I probably shouldn't talk about this because it's I don't know this, right? But it's like something that leaked. So, I don't know. That this team, with the roster that they have, you just look at their starters, they should be top 3 in APAC. No questions asked.
Yeah.
But they aren't. They're one of the worst teams in APAC. So that's unacceptable at this point, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, this is a team that's already at the behest of, some issues. It's a team that we, I think everybody accurately, pegged as a team that, is good, but has a difficult time coming together. And if the organization is as difficult as it seems they might be, then this might have been doomed from the start. However, if they were going to make changes, I'm glad that they're doing it now. Now they're probably washed out of May. They still have 3 more tournaments and 2 hero pool, dives that they can kind of get lucky or excel with. I think that can definitely bolster confidence and see them return, or at least show some sort of good games. But yeah, it's not a good look for the Hangzhou Spark this early on.
No. Yeah.
Well, nuts.
Oh, no, why? Please get off. Please leave me alone with this topic.
Yeah, I'm kind of over the whole.
But I think we all had them like 6th in the region, right? Like the expectations were relatively low to begin with.
I think I was the highest
because of Scrim preseason bucks. But just quickly, because ZP doesn't chime into our chat that often. He just said special. Hello, this is a special stream division unit. We're shutting down this channel because we have been informed that it's not Esports certified. Please obtain a certification before streaming again. Thank you. Jesus Christ, that topic.
That deserves its own show.
Okay, well,
I have opinions.
It's there now, though. So
it's true.
We're gonna have to talk about it.
Do you want to give a quick one?
So here's the brief. Yes. By the way, Joe, you had them at 4th.
Yeah, I had
Yiska
Spark
and
very
I had
high.
them 6th.
Yeah.
Right.
So this past week, what's the name of it? Esports Certification Institute.
Something like that, yeah.
Was launched with a board of some names that I honestly wasn't super familiar with, but I believe that they're relatively I don't know. Outside of communications, I think I saw a couple of people like outside of communications, the board isn't actually bad. Day 9 is on the board there as well. But essentially,
big people, yeah.
They're selling an esports certification for like $400 or $300. Like you can get it on sale or something like that. So you can get a certification, a certificate, put it on your resume, and then boom, you're esports certified. And it has made for some really great social media the past 36 hours. I will say that. I've had a lot of laughs. I've seen a lot of I think half-baked takes on both sides of things. I don't know. It's really weird coming from like an industry where certifications are honestly more valuable than diplomas. Like the idea of a certification is not inherently on its face bad, but like gaming in esports is so like anti-establishment that it just kind of feels really weird. To have a certification for that, it's like, you know, it's, you know, gaming was one of the first and arguably only markets to have dudes walk up in t-shirts and beards and long hair and ponytails and tattoos and talk about gaming and talk about, you know, in esports, I think just as much so. And now we're, you know, kind of creating a certification from it. ZP, you created this, by the way. There goes our 75-minute runtime, by the way.
Oh yeah. It feels like the test wasn't like either taken or like run by the board. Like I respect enough people on that board and their minds for things that it doesn't feel like they were necessarily consulted past. Hey, do you think this is a good idea? And then that was it. Like, I don't know that many people would have wanted their names on this, especially with like how general it is. Like this feels like saying, hey, you want to get like science certified? Doesn't, you know, we're going to kind of just throw you some like general and like all across the board things, but now you're science certified. It doesn't really matter about what science you're interested in, but you're like science certified now. So that's cool. Like you can be a meteorologist, you can study rocks, you can pour some stuff together in a beaker. Yeah, you're certified for that now. Go ahead, go do it. It's like, that's not how this works. And you know that. So like, what is this? It feels like a cash grab to me. It doesn't feel like a cash grab. It feels like maybe somebody there had like a good intention, but then it was kind of derailed and hijacked and just kind of like expedited along to be this like weird, overly
I think that
thing.
The discussion is twofold. A, do you think an esports certification generally, and okay, do certifications in esports make sense? I would say in certain parts, yes, because it's really hard to do something in esports if you haven't had the time here to understand, and that if you want to certify that, especially for companies that don't have the endemic support yet in order to figure out if someone's endemic or not, then that's so per se, like I don't dislike that. Now, a general esports certification is a nuts idea, and I don't know how anyone that was on that board of advisors approved of that. Now, I think everyone in esports can look at that those questions and say that the execution of this is atrocious.
So what? Because I'm picking up a theme from both of you, and that is that esports, like esports is too science. Like it's too broad. Are you saying like you would do a League of Legends esports? Like what is the is it by game
more
or is it by
region.
like
more specific job? right?
Yes.
Like if I want to be certified as a community manager, I'm going to tailor my essay and my questions and everything around like community management, things that are at least, adjacent to those skills. If I want a social media manager, if I want a business analyst, if I want to, anything down to like team management, right? Like I want to ask these questions to help. I'm trying to dodge the word certify, but assure that this person at least knows what job they're stepping into and what should be expected of them, not just like random general business questions. If I'm esports certified and I apply to be, the team's janitor, why does this diploma or certification help me help you? It doesn't. Yeah. It just shows you that I either looked up how to do some equations and Googled some things. Like it's not tangible, I guess. It's not, specific enough to like help anybody. It's just $400 for something that feels very vapid.
Yeah, and I think that the certificate price for what it provides and how competent employers should evaluate this is just not worth it, dude. Like,
if anything, I've seen more people go the opposite way. It's like if you're that much of a chump that you're gonna buy this, then we might actually look the other way. And I don't know if that's completely a meme.
So, and so coming back for a second to look at some certifications that are really popular in Silicon Valley, like program management, really popular certification. What's another one? Some like basic coding language, really popular certification. Technical support for like a specific operating system. Those are usually all around $1,000 to $2,000.
Agreed.
Just to put the price there. Mm-hmm. To me, though, I feel like
I think the price is a little like I think it could be warranted if things were a little bit more stable. And if it was a little bit more valuable.
I mean, there needs to be more volume to this. Like, it needs to be a respectable thing that actually provides value to an employer for you to be checked against. And at that price, it simply doesn't. Like, and at that volume, like the cost benefit analysis is just bad. And I understand, like, if you want to hit that price point, you got to bring more value, dude. Like, it needs to have courses and like. Once again, this is scalable for you.
You're telling me you don't like the free study guide? Come on, there's a study guide.
So here, can I just give my take on this? I tweeted it out yesterday. But I think that endemic esports people will not, and for a very long time, will never look at certifications for
I agree.
As a hiring practice. However, I think that non-endemic esports people looking to get into esports and gaming, that is actually going to be a very valuable esports differentiator or resume differentiator. I could totally see, kind of some of the bigger companies who don't have like esports or, sections, or even like, honestly, even though it's esports specific, this isn't just about like esports. This is understanding the broader competitive gaming landscape. We use the term esports, but honestly, anybody in gaming, if you're applying for, a job at a tech company that, has maybe a lackadaisical gaming industry, having esports certification, at least on paper, has value because those hiring managers are used to seeing certifications, number one. And number two, if they don't know what to go off of, at least there's some sort of foundation
some
that they can get. And two people with equal experience, and one person has that esports certification, could find that there.
Yep.
That being said, I don't know how big of a thing that actually is.
Yeah, and it feels sort of scammy and scummy, if that's the functionality. It's also, we have to be fair, and I noticed, I think I got a stench of like a general, I think this topic doesn't get as big, if there aren't these endemic people involved and supposedly advising, but if there isn't, for esports endemics that have already made their place, if there wasn't like an innate just disagreement with the practice of certification in esports, because esports very much feels like you show up with value, you provide value, nobody asks your credentials.
Yeah,
you don't need them. This is a very new thing where you, to a degree,
I mean, you need credentials, but it's credentials through experiences, not papers, not colleges, not certifications. It's I observed this, I handled HR for this, and you're listing your experiences, not how the expensive pieces of paper you bought.
Right.
Yeah, and that, I think, like, long term there might be value in that. I don't see it right now. I think esports is like, job descriptions for the most part don't even make that much sense in esports. Like, we have
4 years experience.
We have fairly small companies where everyone needs to do a little bit more than what their job description describes. You're like, if you're working in the industry right now, like, the scale is just not there towards like a specialization where you can just say, okay, you're my design guy now. And for leagues and whatever, it's true, right? But generally speaking, it's a community made of self-made, and don't overinterpret that. I don't even believe in the literal translation of that. I don't think that exists. I think everyone's a product of their environment, but of people that have worked hard, have made a lot of sacrifices to make it here. And the idea that someone wants to weigh up whatever I provided to this industry and wants to certify this and evaluate this just feels wrong. And I understand that that's the case, but I think, like, long-term thinking, it isn't an evil one. I don't think the people that are in this company and the advisors just want to make, like, ridiculous amounts of money out of gullible people. I think they think of their product as eventually providing value to a customer base. If they can refine the certificate to actually mean something that has innate value. They basically created a currency where there's no counterweight for it, other than gullible, like, VC people coming into esports wanting to say, well, I guess you have an esports certificate on your CV. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see it as inherently evil. I don't see it as inherently stupid. I think the execution very much leaves a lot to be desired.
And there's always this fight to be the first, right? So, like, right now it just gets launched, and if it catches on and it becomes the normal thing, it becomes an important certification. If it doesn't catch on, it becomes a meme, and it doesn't. It's one of those. It reminds me of, like, the person. You know how, like, people can get certified in, like, Myers-Briggs?
No.
And it's like, at some point, yes, people can, and they spend thousands of dollars, I think, doing it. Certifications, and it's actually a tangible asset in the business world. And I'm not here to, like, necessarily, I don't know enough about it to, like, to on it specifically.
Right. Sure.
The idea of it is that there's this, at one point we decided that Myers-Briggs was a better version of a personality professional work test than the others. It went from, something, it started from people who are relatively reputable in the industry. They built it. They got people to buy in. For some reason, it caught on, and now it's a really valuable thing. If you're a people manager or a hiring manager, at least in tech, and you don't have certifications, and Myers-Briggs, and there's another kind of really popular one, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. If you don't have those certifications, the chances of you being hired is not that high. It's kind of, it's weird, and it started from my, again, relatively limited but did put some intention behind doing some research on it. My understanding is that it basically started as, hey, this is an interesting way to, you know, think about your personality in the professional workplace and how you work with people.
Mm-hmm.
And cool, yeah. Oh, this was helpful for me. This gave me some insight. Okay, cool. Now people get certified in verifying others' test results.
Yeah,
that's weird.
It's also,
okay, that's so strange. I've never heard of that.
Let's also be honest. A lot of people in esports ran away from exactly that. Like, you've been weighed, you've been measured and found wanting type of mindset, right? Like, there's a lot of people that just never finished their degree and just were hired into like into a position based on just having provided the value at that time. Ton of people. This is like the creatives that have suffered in that. It's almost like the fuel engine of whatever it is. It's really rare to see people with like elite degrees in esports, while we see elite performances all the time. Like, our casting, for instance, runs circles. Like, the best casting esports runs circles around the best Formula One shotcasters or whatnot. Like, Sadokist probably can jump in and be a superstar there almost immediately, right? So, in everything that isn't reputation based. Now, so like, I understand that there's a certain skepticism towards the people that made it here, and they don't want to have the measurements of regular society. They want to be able to bring whatever value they can in the way that they can, not to be measured by some stupid test that doesn't actually evaluate whatever their personal contribution as different, as neurotypical, as creative it may be. And this is like, this industry doesn't even make sense from a monetary perspective. And the reason we work out is because the ingenuity of the workforce that we have and the willingness to sacrifice, honestly. Like,
it's built on the backs of self-starters and people that are like akin to startup companies. Those are the people who you want.
Do you know where I actually think it does make sense financially? Is, again, I think that we don't totally understand the target customer.
Yep. Right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it is non-endemics.
Think of a non-endemic talent agency that's looking to get into gaming. Hey, employees, all 15 of you, you're going to get esports certified over the next 4 weeks. Here's the certification. Here's the material. And then, hey, Esports Certification Institute, here's $4,000 or whatever, $6,000.
I think, like, in that way, I can see some use, or at least like getting your toes wet in things that like may be applicable for like people who are like brand new. I think maybe then like the messaging is off on it. But yeah, I think in general, it is non-endemic focused. I'd much rather somebody actually create, and I think we have seen these pop up over the last few years, like reputable consultant agencies, if that makes sense. Like, I know that the meme, haha, esports consultant is just like some weird CEO that like doesn't really have anything to do with the space. I'd take industry experts and veterans and ask their opinions on things. I'd much rather that than, already trying to, in many different ways, gatekeep who gets in and who gets out. That's kind of where that's where I jump on the sword.
Yeah, and well, like I generally like to think, at least at the most aspirational moments, gaming and esports industry is all about inclusion. There's obviously very much that's not the case in very different types of things, but as far as experience goes, I don't think it's ever been more true. The amount of experience that you need to get into esports is equivalent to the amount of work you're willing to put into it. Period.
I don't think we'd all be here if we didn't self-start. You know, John with, you know, Overwatch League Daily, Yiska writing and doing weird podcasts that I still get pushed into my YouTube algorithm. I just started. I cold called somebody that I heard on a podcast, said they were doing, you know, journalism or whatever, or writing, and said they had an opening, and I noticed they didn't have an Overwatch section, so I pitched it to them, and here I am. You know, it's on my tiny platform of success. It's, you just kind of have to do, and I think that's what everybody tells you. As boring and as general as it is, there's no Excedrin pill. There's no like fast track to success. You just have to do things.
You have to do, and maybe this is a mega privileged position, but I found, like, I don't ask people for favors. I don't ask people for jobs. In my life, I haven't. And this industry is really good at keeping an ear to the ground. Whoever is like willing to give and then extend a helping hand.
Agreed.
And I've always tried to, like, if you're currently in chat wanting to do esports journalism and that's your type of thing, like, shoot me a DM. I will 100%, because that's the esports ethos that I've experienced for the last 15 years.
Same here.
Well, it
is always open.
It's also very much like a, what is it? Oh gosh, what is it called when you have like a master and a journeyman? What's the term?
An apprentice.
Yeah, it's almost like esports is kind of filled with a lot of like apprenticeships in the sense.
And I think we
like,
need that more than a certification. I want more mentorships than slapping a piece of paper on my resume and saying like, look, I did good. Me smart.
I agree. Yeah. Look at how important your internship, at least for some industries, is for college than any of your actual, you know, grades or classes that you took. It's like, oh, you interned at this place. Well, they're badass, so yeah, we're gonna hire you. And you don't necessarily have that.
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, I guess in esports, it's yes, it is.
Unfortunately,
but you know, in esports, there's none of the class stuff. It's all like, I learned casting under Avril at Broadcast GG before he went on to cast an Overwatch League. Here's him as my reference. Like, that's the closest equivalent that we kind of have to that type of professional thing, but there's none of the classes behind it. And that's also been a problem from esports, especially as far as PR, HR, and comms goes. Especially PR and HR. Because, you know, esports organizations, especially smaller ones, really suck at those. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. Overwatch podcast.
Again,
right.
I think we could go a long time on that.
Yeah, for sure.
It is very interesting to kind of mull over, but
I think everyone that has been here for a while not only has thoughts about this, but has emotions about this.
Oh, for sure.
It's still a passion industry. It's for that reason, it's really easy to exploit people. And you gotta also make sure that this exploitation isn't happening in your vicinity. I think that's also, you sort of see that the reaction that everyone had on Twitter is exactly that circuitry, because everyone has been taken advantage of in esports at some point in their life. Definitely I have. It's getting better over the years.
Sure.
But that's basically like, that learning is that circuitry that that's like a learned process. That's firing when we see that. And I don't think that was intention. From what I could gather from their interaction with the fallout of that wasn't ever their intention. They actually like sort of tried to do their homework with a lot of advisors. They had Frodan.
I know, that's what's weird.
Jason, like Andy Miller, like
it doesn't get better than that. It looks like a pretty like star-studded lineup of board members, but like that doesn't match what we've seen.
Yeah.
If we're to believe and trust some of the reports that have shown, you know, I trust yeah, as much as I can throw him. I respect Albert. I don't think he would just post stuff on Twitter and just lie about it. There are other people that I've seen that are just like, why does somebody in like a social media manager position need to know about like business law?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
It's really important to realize that people come into esports and they come to you and they tell you not, please give me a salary so I can sustain myself, but also, here's my heart and my passion. Please treat it carefully. And therefore, I'm very vulnerable. You cannot probably underpay me as well. And that shouldn't happen. That's just like, that's the problem here.
Yeah. Anyways, let us know your thoughts on what you think about esports certifications. I can't wait to read the YouTube comments on that one. That'll be fun. Let's talk a little bit about last week's matches, though, because there's a few things that I want to kind of get caught up on. We had a few teams debut last week, right. I believe, right? First one, the Paris Eternal, going 1-1, beating the Vancouver Titans 3-1, and then losing to the Houston Outlaws, who that's a team we probably need to talk about in a second. So tell me how Paris did, because I'll be honest, I didn't. They were definitely on my short list of people not to watch this week when I'm trying to get caught up on these things.
I didn't hate them. Like I think they're like fine. Like I think they are definitely a team to dodge if like you're strapped for time. But in general, I think they're kind of showing the strength of Europe, a team that, you know, nobody really expected to do extremely well. And to be fair, they're not doing extremely well, but they, you know, in terms of form, in terms of, you know, how they're playing, they look okay. Do I think they'll make the Melee playoffs? No, of course not. Are they going to be upsetting any teams anytime soon? No, of course not. But there's tangible like skill there. I think, especially with Khan, I've been very pleased with some of the things that he's shown. And it has definitely lived up to the hype from some of the Overwatch contenders casters. You know, big, very excited to see him get into the league. So he's definitely somebody that we have to keep our eye on, who will continue to perform. But the team as a whole, it's a good start. I think, again, it's a project team. It'll only, you know, mature and get better as time goes on. And as long as they kind of keep this project going, if that makes sense, like if they continue to iterate on it in the future, we're going to have a competitive Western, you know, team.
Yeah. And let's not value the difficulty of playing on ping.
For sure.
Playing from your home. They don't have a team house, these teams. So it is really challenging for them. Like I did a post-match interview with Commander X. Like let's also call a spade. The advertised, like, okay, let me be nuanced here because I think it deserves a nuanced take. If I have my home franchise in London, then and get told your expected ping range is 90 to 110, and that's playable, then I work with that assumption going from London. Every other latency I have to eat because my player is in the north of Finland or whatever, that's on me. That's my responsibility. The league's responsibility is to make sure that the 90 and 110 framework can be maintained. And if not, they have to build different systems around this. Very simple. Like, if that's your advertised thing, people make decisions based on that, right? It's taken into account. Now, if I'm hearing 150 or 140 or whatever, and once again, I would have to go back. I don't take that as fact. Commander X gave me a hard number. I think it was 140.
I mean, that's not the only report, to be fair.
Then
so I think it's
yes. Then that is a problem. And it's also a problem for Hangzhou, even though I don't know where the problem there is. If it's between their provider and the service, once again, like the league only has to provide a theoretical, like within ping range thing, right? If the problem is with your service, then the problem is with the league. If your problem is with the internet provider of the respective company, team, or with the respective player's house or whatever, that's on the team, right? So the variance there is sadly really high, and let's call a spade a spade. You simply won't block Shackers at 150. You just won't. That's just it's much of a different game then, right?
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's really sad because like the entire situation, it serves some purpose, because like if these guys never make it to Hawaii, then there are no logistical difficulties with that as well. But like I guess what I'm saying is everything you see on the server from these two teams needs to be caveated against their respective resources.
I don't even think it's these two teams.
Position.
I think there are specific players in this league. I think I can think of one that I'm very not suspicious of. I think that's a little aggressive, but I think there are players who are playing on ping for teams in the West that are limited. Oh, look at the baby. That are limited in terms of their hero pool. Like they are unable to play certain heroes because they are playing on ping, and they are limited in what they can do.
Yeah,
it looks so small.
Sorry, we got a bubble backpack, and he won't get.
Oh my god,
he won't get.
Really?
He
won't get out. He just in by himself.
He just sits in there like this is his house.
Wow.
We leave it open.
Have you taken him to the vet?
He's gotten so big
with it.
We just walk him. He likes to go on walks, so I take him on walks when I take Choji.
No
walks.
way, that's
Put
so
him on
nice.
my backpack, and he just chills. He just loves chilling, right here.
Wow,
super cute.
Wants to be taken on a walk right now, I think. Damn,
just chilling.
That's actually really cool. Damn,
super cute.
Okay, got the cat content algorithm going. Here we go.
It's an extra 200 views. Let's go.
I mean, I already know, like, all you guys in chat, like, I look at my Twitter analytics, like, everyone who reads my tweets, 99.5% of people also look extensively at dog and cat pictures. So don't even get me started on, like, anyone going, hey, what content? No. You watch those cats all day long. You watch cats. Mm-hmm. That's what you do. Watch Overwatch and cats.
That's why there's so many cat skins. Sprays.
But yeah, I mean, both teams, honestly, like,
not bad.
We're not really taking that into account, but the Scrimbux weren't wrong about these either.
No,
right?
of course. I don't think anybody is surprised at some of the performances. Yes, some hot takes can go sideways, and definitely I think London is a little worse for wear. But there again, I think that's the team that I'm excited to see once they get their full roster, once Sparker becomes of age. I think he'll be a significant boon to this team. That's no discredit to Shax, but it seems like the repetition of mid to long range hit scan plus flanking DPS seems to be something that Overwatch tends to go back to. So having somebody like Shax and Sparker to be able to kind of pilot that will only see them, get better over time. And in Paris is, again, Onigod still doing the damn thing. I remember this kid, jumping on a plane because Kib didn't want to in 2016.
Yeah.
This kid's been doing it for a really long time and is consistently proving that he is doing well. Like we saw him on the field last year. It looks great.
For sure.
He deserves to be not only in the league, but on a team that can perform. And I think Paris can be that home for him moving forward. I don't think this team in general is going to be, punching super above their weight. Might be a few upsets here and there, but there is talent in Europe that, can compete for titles. I do believe that.
Specifically for Onigod, like imagine Onigod making it onto a team like the Valiant last season. I think we would be thinking about him very differently than we're doing now. Now it's sort of like this cool long-time veteran that finally made it. I think we would be talking about him in very, very similar tones as like Shax and KSP did. If he had a solid team around him. And
look
it feels like he's
story.
Yeah. I feel like Oni is just like stumbling from one team that he outskills into another, and outskills or just like unfortunate events with Dallas Fuel.
100%. But EU's good. I'm waiting. I'm telling you guys, EU's gonna be in title striking distance the next year or two.
Oh, really?
Yep, I believe it. I think if C9 wanted to, I think that's the key here. They could put together like a super team. Is definitely comes with a few caveats and cons there, but I think they could throw together a very strong team.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, we got the dogs too. Oh yeah, nice. Full algorithm gang.
Got it.
Big boy.
Isn't he big?
There you go.
Dogs.
I'm honestly not trying to do this. The cat was my fault, but this is just
Judge is not.
It's like, hey, I heard there was attention to be had here.
Oh yeah.
He knows. Anyways, tell me about London then. So another team that had their debut, London. Right. Expectations for London have been set. They went in with 2 very tough matches, especially in hindsight, the LA Gladiators and the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah.
They did not do super well, at least as far as taking maps and games. But did they do okay?
Like you said, it's tough to see exactly what their floor and ceiling is, if that makes sense, when you're playing, Gladiators who came into the season with high expectations, had a lot of practice expectations, I think drastically under-delivered in week 1 and is on the mend coming into week 2, kind of finding their footing, identifying problems that either have sprung up or weren't necessarily problems in the past. So they look better. I think London did kind of run them close in certain circumstances, which is a vote of confidence towards London more so than it is anything towards Glads. I think they're still kind of like fixing things. And I would have to guess that May feels kind of like a wash at this point. I think they're too much in the hole. Again, mathematically, that's not necessarily true at this point, but just in terms of form, I don't know that I'd be all that excited to see Gladiators continue to perform in this current, state. As for London, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to kind of gauge exactly what they're capable of doing because they played, what it looks to be one of the top teams in the West with Houston and Gladiators who, are definitely getting better. I think week 3, as much as it's a non-answer, will give us a better idea of what the London Spitfire are going to look like moving forward. I think there is promise. I think the expectations are aptly set though. I'm still not sure on Hybrid, and that's not like I think he's bad by any means. I'm just like not. I need to see more tape of him, and actual decent settings, if that makes sense. Like where he's playing a team that the London Spitfire either should beat or should be competitive with. I'd love to see like the head-to-head versus Paris. But yeah, it's kind of too early to tell right now with London.
Another new team that we saw this week was the Boston Uprising. The Boston Uprising, I don't think I'd fully realized how tough their schedule is.
Yeah.
LA Gladiators, Dallas Fuel, Washington Justice, and then they have one against London, but still 3 out of 4, very tough ones. Haven't won a map yet. They're expected 13% win against Washington.
Yeah.
So and again, this is not what I got to see. Like, are you concerned? Yeah, that was going to kind of be. Are you concerned about the Boston Uprising here? Or are we just chalking this up to really good teams at the early of the season? Or do they not look that
as well. Here's the problem. They are like, I think someone from the staff tweeted it that they're the hardest working team in the Overwatch League, and I believe it. They have like really strenuous practice schedules. And for them to go down like this, even though it is expected, Myanbang? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is a momentum problem that also could screw with confidence. Like you can't do more than they are doing.
Yeah.
Realistically, like a sports psychologist would probably tell you, unless you have some freaks of nature on your team, that recuperation periods are more beneficial towards your performance than they are. So I'm not sure how they will react to this. I think a little bit of it is expected in terms of the scrim results. I think if they looked at their scrim results, they would have seen I actually think, like, realistically speaking, when all is said and done, Boston will be the gatekeepers. So you lose to Boston, you're not a good team. You win to Boston, you're a good team.
You should have beat Boston.
That's the bar that they will be setting this year. And of course, we can't really evaluate it based on the strength of schedule we currently see from them. But the manner in which they also lose these, I'm concerned. Like, I don't know what their response can theoretically be. Like, you can't practice more than they're already doing, or you shouldn't. So what can you do? Right?
Yeah, so I think the issue here is the form. When you have players like Stand One, like Valentine, we've seen him in the past perform well, even in the preseason, looked very strong. We've seen Byung really step out and be a shining spot for this Boston Uprising team, and to see him, I think, probably play one of the worst games of his career. I think it was against the Fuel, and some of the comps that they're running, it doesn't set people up for success. I think a lot of people are, definitely down on Valentine, but I would, definitely warn against that. I think there are some traps that they've kind of set for themselves where, yes, he isn't performing, but he's really not had a ton of chance to, because like he's put in a like live or die scenario with that Doomfist comp that they keep running. So of course he's not going to perform. It's kind of like the nature of Doomfist, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the big issue with Boston, yes, they've had a hard schedule, but with the expectations that they have around this roster and the form that they've showed against some of these higher teams, it has me concerned, 100%. It's so much so that I struggle with predicting Boston London next week, not only because it's a double point game for the Pick'em League, but because that's a game I genuinely don't know which way that goes. I really don't.
Interesting. What about so there's one that kind of hits. We saw Washington's debut this week, and I don't think that there were any huge surprises on this one.
Nothing huge. I definitely think that they could be slightly more refined. I definitely don't know if
if I remember correctly, you had them at third, while Yiska and I had them at second, correct?
Something like that. I think I might have had them at second and Glad's at third. It's tough to remember, but I know that those were my top three. I know it was Shock, Glad's, Washington. And I do think Washington
it was Yiska who had the silly power rankings.
Wait, what was wrong?
You don't worry about it.
Okay. What was wrong? Glad's at one. What was wrong? Glad's at one.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, Washington dropping a map to Vancouver. I threw the dice on that and got it right. Happy that I got an extra point on the pick'ems, but like that's the kind of like feeling I get with this team, is like they're going to beat and be competitive, but like I don't know what about them is unrefined. Maybe it'll get better over time. I think the roster in general on paper looks great. I think Jerry's been performing well enough. I'm happy to report that Bebe's clapping cheeks. The team looks good, but there are instances where they just flop.
Start dancing in an I told you so dance about that backline as well. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, man. Like, it's so narrative focused when we look at these guys. Like, nobody's actually looking at their play or their situation. And yes, some of it is inaccessible, but like that didn't really feel like that. Like, both Closer and Bebe are high like ceiling players, and they don't need to be popping off.
But because you know what? I think that the idea behind that can be applied to another player, but we'll get to that. Sorry to cut you off.
Right. By the way, I caught a glimpse of the power rankings, the preseason ones.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, how are you feeling about the Outlaws at 10 right now?
Yep. Again, was wrong in week one. That I think my tweet, dunking on you was a little early. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm ready to apologize, get on all hands and knees, all fours, I'll be the one to pray to the Yiska picture from now on, because Houston does look extremely good. Again, I've tweeted about this. I think Houston maybe the Asia representative could be a little different these days, especially after looking at Jinmu's, somber performance. But I do want to see Houston, in that styles clash matchup between Chengdu. I think Philly still is a little too Western for my taste, but I want to see the two opposite forces collide. I want to see positive, negative, try to touch. That would be my ideal. And I think that's, again, only a vote of confidence for Houston. I digress, though.
I don't want to say anything too early about Houston just yet.
4-0 puts them, it's really hard for them to mess this up. Yeah.
Yep.
They're probably going to get a bonus win with that round 1 pick. Then they had 5 at least.
I'm not saying, I don't think that they're necessarily a 9th place team anymore, but we all knew Shock could be coming into the season looking a little weak. It literally came down to one fight. Dallas, relatively similar story, came down to one fight. Houston could easily be walking in at 2-2 right now. 2-2.
Yep.
They easily could be able to. And those were not stomp matches. Those were 3-2 close ones. And the Dallas especially we were right about Dallas and being a middle of the table team.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, which do you take more as gospel? The win over Shock to consistently perform that way, or they're just, more of a mid to higher level team than we originally thought?
I think it's the form, if anything. I agree. I think maybe we're a little too low on Dallas. I think that's the team where I'm maybe this team's better than we expected. Not because they're overperforming, but because there are many teams that are underperforming. You look at the Glads, you look at Boston, you look at, in a weird way, Justice Fuel is not a matchup that I think goes completely according to plan. I think Dallas has a weird niche right now, and bless, the Dallas Fuel coaching staff for finding a creative way into the meta. Yes, they have pitfalls. Yes, they have maps that they can't play extremely well because they don't have a mid to long range hit scan. I know it's coming, whatever. But they found ways to make it work. And yes, Sparkle, still doing his Sparkle thing. He attack, he feed, he do everything, right? It does look good. And I'm, hesitant to kind of call them a top 5 team right now, but I don't know that match is as lopsided as in Houston's favor when it comes to expectations as we might be, weighing out. I think by the end of week 3, once we get a little better read on teams like Boston, London, maybe, I guess globally, teams like Charge and Spark in general, I think, the Fuel could be, a good team, if anything. Maybe not even mid-table. Such a genuinely good team.
They had last minute things to deal with too. So
yeah, but that's even worse. How is this team performing as well as they are with
they're overperforming my expectations for sure. For Anderson. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think they looked really respectable. They definitely looked rigid. They looked like very not agile
because they have
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And they still performed kind of questionable strategies because, again, of the rigidity of the system that they had to put in place, presumably. They still looked very serviceable. Now give them a few weeks to kind of iron out those kinks, figure out what works, what doesn't.
It's a scary team, hard team to prepare
it can
for.
It can be a good team still. So, just like we shouldn't throw all of our eggs in one basket on the Houston thing. They're fun. They've looked awesome. I know some people are more excited about them than others, and I know part of it's just me, ego, wanting them to be lower, so my power rankings are closer to right.
Sure.
But, it's early. We're only week 2, right?
We're going into week 3. We finish with week 2. Yeah.
So going into week 2. I wonder how much of having 4 games in 2 weeks played in Houston's favor as well, because they kind of I feel like they really caught teams off guard.
In ways, yeah, I definitely agree. There's definitely especially the Shock. I think that was very evident in the Shock's game that they had some strats that they were running that they weren't prepared for. I think I think it was Pork Chop Sammy in chat had put out the point that, how meta resistant are they, and that's kind of where I'm skeptical yet. I haven't seen this team. I've been surprised with them with Rush, and they look extremely well. I would say when it comes to the forms of Rush, I think they play the best Rush at the moment. I think they are the best Rush team, period. A close second to maybe Shock or Atlanta, if I had to guess. Maybe Philly should be put up there. It's tough to say just because like Asia as a region doesn't play a whole lot of Rush. But yeah, Houston, slightly TBD for the whole season, but as of right now, they look like
Super
they could
hot.
be maybe other finals.
Totally agree with that. Let's flip over to the East really quick and talk a little bit about those those results here. So we had a few things. First of all, New York did make their debut.
They did.
0-3 against Chengdu, 3-1 against the Spark. How do you think new NYXL looked?
I have to assume that this is a severe underperformance. Their season opener was abysmal. It was not close. I don't think, did they score a point? Let's check Wikipedia. Oh, they didn't score a point.
Yeah.
It did not look good. What has me worried is it still didn't look great in terms of form, just in terms of what's being run, how it's being run. I think JJANGGU is having a terrible season thus far, which is bizarre to say. And that game versus the Spark has me concerned. I know they have to be underperforming. I've heard NYXL stocks being sold or being bought at the highest, level of people I respect. Yiska being one of those people. Where is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Where is this team that everybody keeps saying is doing so well in scrims? Because I have not seen it thus far, and against a top team and against a bottom team. So where is it happening?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's a pretty young roster. Like they have 4 rookies, right?
Yeah. And that was the concern.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid concern. Do they have 4 rookies? Maybe I'm...
Well, they have Yakpeng, they have Feather, Guangbun,
they have
who
3
just hasn't even been in the roster.
3 would be, right? Jonak, Yakpeng, and Bianca would be the ones that aren't technically rookies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think they are still severely underperforming their real level or scrim level, I suppose. See how I did that?
Yeah, real level. You just try to.
The level they are capable of. I think I'm getting sort of like antsy about Yakpeng's performance in particular. Because this kid always looks like nuts in contenders, and then he hits Overwatch League, and then it's suddenly gone. And I don't understand. Is that a nerve thing? Is that a system thing where, like, it's just coincidentally the case that, like, the teams he's being put in don't make him look good in the Overwatch League, but they do in contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like, of course, there's also like a systematic. Like, it's not just on him, of course. It's just like you would love for someone like that who has gotten back into the league. Not many people have done that. To have a certain tenacity in their performance. And he's just with all of them in terms of the down dip. And I think he can. I think all of that team, I have pretty high confidence in them bouncing back. I think Flora showed definitely like that there's some nutty potential there. Let's be honest. Like
nobody's discounting their potential. I don't think anybody's down on that.
Yeah. As soon as that team starts gelling, JJANGGU will look at like a top 3 flex support in the league once again. I'm not that concerned. They got to pick up momentum though. They got to shake off the green.
Start now.
And the season is so short. Like as people have pointed out, like Houston has played 25% of their regular season matches. It's a short season, guys. Like you don't have any time to suck. So that said, like I remember the match against like, yes, not getting a tick doesn't sound great on paper. The control map was competitive.
It was 100%. Right? You have to give that to New York. I think Chengdu botched a number of their engagements, and New York could have come back. JJANGGU, do JJANGGU, and will their fights back into existence sometimes.
Sure.
Love them or hate them for it. It happened. And then the other two maps weren't close. Spark was too close for me, in my opinion. I know, I see the potential. I see it.
Yeah.
I hear, oh Lord of the Stock Exchange, recall back to 2019, early Toronto Defiant.
Yeah.
Remember where they were placed in the Stock Exchange?
Yeah.
Remember who was the leader of that team when it comes to main tanks? I think there's something tangible here.
Flashbacks, yeah.
There's something tangible here with Yakpung where he does not show up.
And it's unfair. Like, the problem with main tank evaluation is like, you don't know what's happening in comms, and you can look like an idiot, like going in by yourself or whatever.
Sure.
Not that that's
100%.
Yakpung's problem per se here, but evaluating main tanks in that regard, like, it's much easier to just look at a DPS, seeing whiffs, seeing mispositions, seeing stupid ego peaks and whatnot. For tanks, they are contextual towards their backlines performance and their team's communication. And I feel like that entire team just sounds like communication breaks down when, like, if you go back to the post-match interview I did with Christopher, that was after week 1, and he told me that team is the most systematically sound team that they've scrimmed against this season. You're not seeing anything of that in those games. And the fact that they have it available to them, just not in live games, that is a problem, but it feels like there can be just an evolution from one week to another where this team just flips a switch, finds their cool, finds their chill, and
that's
just
what's
performs.
dangerous about them. I agree. You look at their next week games, you look at week 4, we pull it up here, and to address something that was mentioned to Curry T, I agree. I have heard similar things. However, I think specifically early on, maybe my memory is a little hazy, but I don't think Envy was with that team immediately. But just going into the season, we were hearing a lot of positive things about this Toronto Defiant lineup. And I think that core of that team, Yakpung, Ivy, there could be other people. Those are just the two that kind of jump out to me. They have a lot of potential. Like, they can look scary on the day, but for whatever reason, the server performance and the practice performance are two separate things. Like, this is a very, very much a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type team. It was then, and it still feels like New York has kind of brought on those attributes. And to Yiska's point, you look at their week 3 games, again, from what you're hearing in practice, it looks like Seoul could be beatable. From a team that is incredibly systematic, who has all the potential. Not only does it need to be, but it could be. It's not just a foregone conclusion that the Seoul Dynasty, especially one that looked as goofy as they did last season, come in and just drop a map unexplainably and go, whoops, slip there on a banana peel to New York. You look at New York's game versus Shanghai. I don't know if y'all saw the game versus JJANGGU, but Shanghai kind of looked like it's not unheard of that maybe New York just takes. I don't have it going that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if they turned it on, they flipped a switch, they figure out whatever's happening, fix it, or at least remedy it, and they come out and look extremely good against Shanghai. I don't think that that's crazy.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, let's be honest, like, it's also the environment they're in currently. Everyone doesn't like APAC everyone in APAC seems to be underperforming other than Philly.
Yeah. And
JJANGGU in the zone. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
But everyone else, like, I'm mildly disappointed by the performances that we see from that region at the moment.
Yeah, they're definitely the weaker region, 100%. And that's surprising to me.
The weaker region with more average spending, with arguably more average quality of talent on the rosters, and just not delivering. And yes, there are systemic issues with ping and whatnot, whatever that's happening there. But like, this got to pick up. I don't think even like the most hardcore stance of Asia could currently defend that. And I think, like, if they were to play today in the main melee situation, then both teams would just get smacked around by whatever. And like, it's not that Philly looks like monumentally strong. They just like slap, right? Do you disagree?
So I think we saw kind of two, not different Phillies, but I think the two matches that really stuck out to me and are extreme, I think, votes of confidence in my perspective, are their game versus Seoul, where I think they rock, paper, scissors their way out of a lot of holes, which I think a lot of teams are not prepared to do. They roll out, especially on control. Draw your mind back to Philly versus Seoul on control. Seoul kind of like tries to rock, paper, scissors them. They go, okay, you want to play Rush? We're going to play Pharah and just kind of let you take point and just try to get, ultimates online. Philly takes control of that. They punish some mistakes. They roll back out. They come out with, Winston dive. They're willing to adapt and roll with the punches. That's great, especially for a team that's been performing in practice as low as what you're telling me, right? That's vote one. Vote two, you look at Carpe's performance against Chengdu, and I guarantee that's a vote for MVP almost. When he screams nano me and he's playing like that, I put my hands in Carpe's hands, call him the Messiah at that point, because he was clapping.
Yeah.
I think Chengdu has some other issues to kind of work on, but regardless, I think you see the mechanics really kind of, performing. You see they're again, a team that looks systematic in some, scenarios. I would say they're probably, at least right now, I'd say they're the best team in Asia, and I don't think it's close.
I agree. I just think this team is like at 65% where they could be.
I agree. I think that they only can get better.
Right.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. And maybe it's also just the structure of how the preseason went and everything. But like, as someone rightly pointed out in chat, we don't have a dominant, like super dominant team where you think, okay, this is a new season 4 shock-esque performer, right? Like, even the 4-0 teams looked sort of shaky. Like, as we said, Houston could also be 2-2. Like, maybe Justice can get there with really strong performances, but even that is like questionable if we can get a feeling of utter dominance from a team. And I think everyone is a little bit like, unless you're one of the teams that overperform, like Philly, like arguably even Houston at the moment, you're probably like dropping the spaghetti a little bit. And I wonder why that is.
How much do you think that Houston and Philly are overperforming? Because I don't know if we'd agree. Because I'm almost willing to say that they aren't overperforming much at all.
Go ahead.
I feel like Philly is currently overperforming the fact that they are a 3-week-old team or something. They should not be this good, right? At this point. Like, 9K Magic, yeah. But like, the fact that everything comes together where they're 4-0 right now shouldn't be the case.
But they don't look like a 3-week-old team. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I guess like narratively, I agree.
Okay.
But I think that's the only team I agree with. I think Houston in general is like surgical in some ways. Yes, they have things that they can work on, and no, I don't think they're perfect, but I think like if you had to put a percentage on it, like their floor to their ceiling, like where do you think these two teams are playing like over?
So you're telling me from the roster that they currently have available. So
yes, like how much more are you giving them?
As I said, like Philly is probably at 65. Houston is pretty high, I think. And I'm not sure if there's much more heavy improvements. They're like 80, 85, I think. Maybe I'm doing them dirty here, but I don't see them, like even them going 4-0, beating a Shark, beating a bunch of like good opponents. I don't see, like, what, based on what I've seen, I have a really small percentage of them winning the league, for instance, in terms of like regular season.
Let's just talk about Melee. I think the league is too far out.
Even Melee, I don't think they will see the final.
Who?
Houston. If
really?
Like, I'm not sure they're making it to Hawaii.
I can't agree with that. Unless like Asia really shapes up. I don't see too many other teams out of the teams that they, Houston has already played, namely Dallas, Shock. I'm hesitant to even give Gladiators a nod getting into the playoffs. I don't know that they get stopped. I want to see that Styles clash.
I don't know if
they
Houston
almost
beats
were.
those teams again. I think if Houston were going to play either of those teams this weekend, they would lose.
It's possible.
I mean, there's at least like they weren't more.
Is
like,
it possible, Joe? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't.
I mean, we're negotiating percentages, and I agree with. Like, I think for me, it feels like there's probably a 55-60% chance that Houston beats the rematch. It's not high, but there's a really real chance that in a probabilistic cloud that like they just lose, and you have to hit those coin flips twice in order to get to a Y. And then in order to get the bonus victory, you also need to win another match there.
Okay, so is this more like you're not high on anybody, or
I think
is there somebody who that you're more voting on?
I think what will happen is like, especially Gladiators will shape up. Atlanta Reign probably, like, if Gladiators makes it into the tournament.
Right, that's the issue.
I think Dallas Fuel can shape up more.
Agreed.
I don't know what their situation with an extra DPS player is, but theoretically,
it's probably too far.
Maybe they could inject someone quickly. Don't think so. I think Justice in full force will be hard to beat for them. I think Shock, they probably are.
Shock's the one that I'm willing to.
Shock is shocked and will now go
I agree.
into shock mode.
Gross.
So I think there's just so much opportunity for massive improvement in a relatively short amount of time, where I don't see Houston outpacing that improvement in order to stay ahead. I think teams even if Gladiators makes it in, and if they actually take up their potential, they have a higher percentage. Okay, this is Scrimbux guy talking again, but if Gladiators makes it in, they have a higher win percentage of the tournament of May Melee than Outlaws does.
I know this is Scrimbux guy talking. I do not see that through their form that they've shown thus far. I get week 1 was bad. I get week 2 was easy. That's your May Melee regular season, but they have to jump, I think, leaps and bounds in performance to actually be within striking distance of making it to Hawaii, letting alone winning the goddamn thing. I think they look very poor.
The thing is, dude, Gladiators, they came out and they didn't just win that match. They wanted their opponents, children, to feel bad for having parents being this big of a failure.
It's you beat up on
know.
London and Boston. Come on. Is that
I mean, Boston
promising?
is not a pushover team.
I think right now they are. Sadly.
I don't agree. Once again, they're gatekeepers and they're getting clapped 3-0 by arguably the best
top 4 teams.
team in.
Yeah.
I get that.
The problem is we will evaluate, it's out of the Gladiators' hands now, right? We will evaluate their first stage, May Melee qualifier tournament, based on if they can make it in or not. And if they make it in, then they will make it far. And if they make it far, then we will think, oh my, they just had a bad 1 week. And to be fair, they just had a bad 1 week, because that's how the format works at the moment.
That's a bad week.
Yes,
that's a real bad week.
It is really weird that 1 week can account for 50% of your stage wins or losses. Misread the meta, misread something, make the wrong call on a single map, practice for the wrong map. The ability to correct.
Player sick.
Player sick.
There goes your season. Bye.
So it's definitely really weird. But I feel like I'm hearing kind of a theme here that it feels like there are a lot more teams that are maybe more shaking out the cobwebs or underperforming than there are, these realistic narratives where the Outlaws or Fusion are leaps and bounds above and beyond kind of where everyone else seems to be sitting right now. Because no doubt, like the Outlaws, I think looked really good these past 2 weeks from what I've been able to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
it's just it's a lot. I feel like this might be, I don't know if I want to say this, but there might be a part of me that believes that it's a little bit easier to tell when a team is overperforming than when they're underperforming. Or sorry, underperforming than when they're over.
Oh yeah, because there's not a lot of data, right?
Yeah,
you have what, like a hard week 1 week, an easy week second week, and that's your games, right? Like look at the Gladiator schedule. Like it's tough to actually get a good read. Have they improved, or was it an easy week? How much is that bye week going to provide for them going into the playoffs if they make it?
And
who knows?
As we see the delta of skill between teams get squished, it's like there's even less of like these bad, we were just talking about it. Boston is 0-2. They can tape, at least Yiska believes that they could steal some.
Sure.
The Titans didn't get swept once this week. Messed up all of my pick'ems for 2 weeks in a row.
Let's go one map.
There's the only teams to not take a map at the moment are the Spitfire and Uprising, and both of which had really challenging weeks.
Yeah,
agreed.
Can I juice one more thing about Houston that was sort of satisfying? I'm sure it was satisfying for whoever did the scouting for the Outlaws. But when I asked around, okay, JJANGGU, right? I asked around the league, have you tried this guy? Some had tried them. And everyone but Houston told me. And it's sort of creepy because like literally 3 people told me almost the same description. I'm not sure if they're communicating with each other, but the label attached to JJANGGU was nothing special. Watch those 4 games back, my friends,
like,
and tell me that he was nothing special.
He won the shot game. That flank around to get the shatter in the back line, that's a hero play. He won that game. He won them that game. That looks special to me.
Yeah.
To have the confidence in your rookie season in your second game to do that, I think that speaks volumes of the type of player that you're looking at. Maybe he scrims poorly. I think that's more of the topic.
Scrims poorly, or the entire stage is different too when you're scrimming or trialing than when you're playing and deciding to make a move on an Overwatch League stage.
It's also the story he comes in with, because he used to be a DPS player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he switches to tank, and you think, okay, this is DPS player brain, probably with good mechanics.
Sure.
Not what I need. I need cool, calm, low collected playmaker in high pressure situations. It's not necessarily what he is. So, or at least he hasn't shown it yet to that degree. I think the fact that he looks as good on Ryan right now as he does is like, I didn't expect that whatsoever. I think the fact that like whenever he gets on the other heroes, like Winston is crazy good.
Look at all of the archetypes that have been existent throughout Overwatch history, and you look at this Houston team, kind of starting to shape up a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, the tank line has been proven. I think at this point, it's tough to kind of really give them. I think Piggy's had a couple like poor fights here and there, but as a whole, I think I'm ready to buy some Houston stocks going forward deeper into the tournament. We'll have to see. Not the tournament, but the season as a whole. I look at Dante and JJANGGU on Winston Tracer dives, right? Like that's kind of scary. You look at Happy on Widow if that pops up. You see his Hanzo performance. Granted, I think a lot of teams didn't necessarily stuff his or cover him well at all. But just mechanically looks fantastic, taking good positions. I think strategically Houston looks sound with JJANGGU and Harsh at the helm.
Yeah,
this is a team that is going to perform.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm willing to wait. I want to wait a little bit more before I go too ham on them until the summer. I think hero pools are going to reset a lot of things. I think a lot of confidence is going to get shattered. I think a lot of confidence is going to get built.
Yeah.
Summer is where we kind of stabilize again. We have another kind of rush meta. Not to say that we're going to be playing the composition, but things kind of, settle down, even out, practices held, long in advance. People get really refined at these compositions and get really good at them. It's the kind of calm before another hero pool storm, and then we go into playoffs. So it's that's the kind of breaking point for me.
The thing is, the exciting thing for me is, and yes, the Outlaws aren't a budget team by any means, but if you look at our preseason power, not even the preseason power rankings, but like if you think about, I remember back when I did the power rankings around Christmas, looking at how much each team invested, looking at the name value of the teams that they have built, I felt like there was a clear top 5, top 6, and Houston wasn't part of that. Now, towards playoff implications, one of these high-paying, like, stack teams will not make it, and it's probably going to be 2 that won't make it.
Yep.
Right? Because there's, once again, like, my underevaluation of Florida is another topic, I guess. But, like, I don't see, like, Dallas, Shock, Toronto, Washington, Gladiators, like, those are high stacked teams, right? I think Houston is now locked in for top 5 for the rest of the season based on what they've shown me. So,
yeah,
someone's going to be mad with a full stack after this. And you can't tell me you didn't just misplay your hand based on the rosters you had.
Oh,
like this team is this team is doing it with fairly uncontested rookies in a lot of ways, right? So, to be fair, they're probably more contested than people would think. So, maybe that's not fair to say. But yeah, like it's an interesting situation. I also still believe that Atlanta has it in them. So,
agreed.
The narratives for me just like my mind is constantly trying, like ever since like December, my mind is trying to squeeze 7 to 8 teams into 5 slots.
It's hard.
Someone's got to spill.
It's hard.
Someone's got to spill. And the fact that Houston isn't spill breaks my brain. I don't know who will drop out of that.
Toronto's a tough team to read. You want to know here, I'll give Florida some love. And this is after what, like maybe 2 or 3 games that they've played. I am falling in love with Kuki. I think he is brilliant. To take and be very good at a regional style. Right now it's Rush, and to constantly put your own spin on it. Go back and watch 2020 week 1. Similar composition. Where do they put BQB? Who's with BQB? What heroes are they playing? It's small iterations with this coaching staff that I think really sets them apart, just identifiably, but also like they do well with it. It's not just like, haha, funny hero, like let's play funny Overwatch, let's do Junkrat, haha, funny. It's good. It's genuinely like well thought out, it's well executed, and it's always different. It's always just slightly different that throws teams off of just a little bit. You look at the game versus Houston on Control. You look at their 2020 performance early on with the I think it was the Brig pocketing the McCree on flanks a lot of the time. Now they're doing it with Sigma. It's good, and they're gonna consistently. You look at Melee last year, like getting early to like the Tracer hit scan meta, getting deep in that tournament, almost beating Shock. Granted, it wasn't, I don't think people were necessarily sold one way or the other going into that match, if that made sense. Like, I think we need to start putting some respect on Kuki's name, because I don't think he's slowing down in terms of like ingenuity. And it's not just like full scale, like crazy Ray stuff, but I think he's kind of in the middle, kind of recalling something that I said, a couple shows ago, where it's Ray and Krusty on opposing sides of the spectrum. I think Kuki's, a good vote for somebody who's like kind of in the middle for me.
I think we could talk about this for a long time, but we don't have time to keep talking about this.
Right.
We have to talk about the upcoming matches. There's a couple.
Yes.
There's a few important games this weekend coming up, and we'll talk about them. We'll go through our predictions and call it. So first, we're gonna start in the East. Actually, let's talk New York Excelsior versus Seoul Dynasty. We kind of touched on this a little bit. Currently, 64%, 36 Seoul. Both teams are 1-1 right now. Both teams have, so NYXL plays Shanghai after, whereas the Dynasty play the LA Valiant.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this one?
I don't think it's not winnable for New York. I think this is close. It would not surprise me if New York snuck out a 3-2, but I have this 3-2 Seoul. I will kind of hold my ground against the Scrimbux. You know, I will be, you know, the man on the hill that, you know, fights against, you know, all these juicy rumors. Until I see New York perform, I will judge them with what, you know, I see. And I have not seen anything great. However, Seoul historically has been known to kind of stumble and have to catch themselves, but I think they will catch themselves and they're going to take this game 3-2.
Yeah, for me, it's like, thing is, these teams couldn't be more different. Like, on the one hand, you have like the spaghetti dropping like young guys,
sure,
that have a lot of like positive potential, and then on the other hand, you just have like these utter professionals that if they get a whiff of the playoffs, they just kick into high gear. They're actually outperforming their scrim performances by a significant margin. So where does that, like, the thing is, like, Seoul must realize this is a knockout match, right? Like, you're basically playing play-ins for this tournament.
Yep. All you have to do is beat New York. I think Valiant's very beatable.
The one thing that I have to debate with myself is, like, do I believe in an absolute turnaround in this short of a time frame? And I gotta say no at this point. I agree that it's going to probably... Thing is, it's probably not going to be a close match because is one of two things happening. Either they catch themselves and they are crushing Seoul, or they're not, and then it's going to be a 3-1 that won't feel that close.
You don't think it's possible that Seoul kind of just like falls on their face for the first couple maps and has to bring it together?
Possible. I mean, also, like, let's be honest, like NYXL leading 2-0 and then Profit just bringing it back from behind would be soul crushing for a young team like this, right? I hope that doesn't happen, but I don't know. I feel like a slight advantage in probability here going to Seoul.
Agreed.
Cool. The other one, oops, didn't mean to do that unless that's Eric working on something. Just pretend that we didn't see that. The next one is New York Excelsior versus Shanghai. This is kind of double pointer. Shanghai starting kind of lukewarm, 1-1, 3-0 Guangzhou, 0-3 Chengdu. Where do they land?
I think I'm not ready to just expunge all Shanghai, praise. But this is a must win against a team that feels very beatable for them. It kind of does hinder on the fact that, New York does have a match before this with Seoul. So if they do flip the switch, if they do turn on, it does well. Maybe they beat Shanghai. I don't think it's that crazy, but like that's an if scenario, right? That's a big if, that kind of, if the turnaround happens, then it's possible. But as it stands right now, I don't think it's very possible. I'll give them a map just because I think everybody can take a map off anybody right now, especially on control. So I'm giving this one Shanghai 3-1 and convincingly in most scenarios.
This was against Spark or against NYXL?
Shanghai versus New York.
Okay. That's another tough one. Somehow I feel like NYXL has more of a chance against Dragons than Seoul.
What? Why?
I don't know, like
just a feeling.
Yeah.
That's fair. I can't argue with that.
But the thing is, I just read a tweet because like I was tagged. like basically saying, if my heart can tell between the signal and if my brain can tell between the signal and the noise, my heart can't. And this is sort of like where I think, am I going against Scrimbux and then feel bad about it? You know, like, because it is only about activation of their true potential, and I honestly think like,
and if Fate can find his slam button.
To be fair though, like if both activate potential, then it's a good game. That I'm not sure who wins, but so I guess Shanghai as well, like a 3-2. That's more like a 3-2.
Okay.
All right, let's go over to the Western Division. Talk about San Francisco Shock versus Florida. Do we see Shock come roaring back here? Florida currently 2-0. Shock at 1-1.
I would say yes, and I think this is going to be one of those stylistic matchups that like really, at least the way that I see it kind of playing out, is going to really make Florida look bad, but I don't think they are bad, if that makes sense. This, to kind of give my stakes, like I think this is 3-1 Shock. I think they had a passivity issue versus Houston. I think that was, a big eye opener for them, and it felt like even mid-match they were making that adjustment. I think if they come out well prepared versus Florida, especially with the Sigma stuff, depending on the maps, to be fair, I can see them getting just run over. Like, Shock's coming in hot, they're speeding at you, they might even just sit in your spawn for a little bit. Like, it's going to look bad, and it's going to look real bad in certain circumstances. However, I'll give Florida map just because I think they're good. And again, most people are taking a map. 3-0s don't feel warranted and often.
The thing is, they don't feel often anymore. Last year, they were half the games were 3-0s.
Right.
And now we've had very little, which speaks to the parity, but also speaks to the spaghetti dropping.
Sure, of course.
So, and to the trolling or experimenting, if we're being fair. Yeah, I don't know. I think Shock's mad. I think Shock's mad. I think they're going to...
You're arguing on the numbers, right? Like, this isn't like, I don't know if Shock wins.
Yeah, no. It's a 3-1, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Another one that was put in here, I don't think that this is as exciting of one, but the San Francisco Shock versus the Atlanta Reign.
This will be a test. This is like an exam of how clean is your rush. Again, I hate to kind of always add the caveat, but it will depend on the maps. But I'd love to see this match played on like strictly rush maps, because if San Francisco is going to perform against Houston in some kind of rematch, they have to kind of show a good form against Atlanta. I think Atlanta, off basically a couple fights, I think they have a lot of latent potential. They have to kind of figure out what this DPS rotation is doing. I'm not subscribed to the whole no Kai no win narrative. However, I think he is integral if they want to be as dominant as they've looked on some of these rush maps. If San Francisco is going to kind of do battle with Houston and make it close, or at least beat them, I think they have to, best reign in their own form, if that makes sense, in their own style. I have this going San Francisco's way, 3-1. I think Atlanta's good. I think they're going to show good performances, but I have some questions with them. I'm not sure on Edison. What's up with Pelican? Again, this team has a lot of potential, kind of New York-esque, a little bit higher floor, but where's the disconnect between practice and stage performance? Because I hear a lot of good shit in practice, but I don't see a whole lot of good shit on the stage.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, I don't think it's a 3-0. It's I wish Atlanta activates, then it will be a good match.
I think, agreed.
And it's also going to be important that they do activate towards their season. I think a team that's set up like they are, which is a lot about like working hard, gaining momentum, and just like cruising on whatever high they have, will greatly benefit from that. I also think they are more likely to bounce back than NYXL.
Yeah, I agree.
The last match that we'll talk about for this one. And a little bit of a toilet bowl going on here. Spitfire, Uprising, both 0-2 currently. Which team gets the first win of the
so
stage?
Hard. I need this for my pick. I'm so bad to kind of increase the gap between me and Yiska. It's too damn close for my liking.
Is this how you already measure?
Yeah, I need like I need to feel
I gave you
validated.
I basically went like, okay, let's go for a run, and then I waited 2 minutes, and then.
So you're sandbagging? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, teams are sandbagging on me and personally.
This is a must win for us if there's any narrative going in. I think Boston has to turn it around if they want to perform. I don't expect a lot from London, but just on paper, I think we can chalk up a lot to bad weeks, hard matchups, regardless. What do we think both of these teams at a floor? How do they compete against one another? I have to go Boston on this. Just on that, I don't think we've seen much from these teams. I think I'm a little too ignorant to both of them thus far, just because we haven't seen them like really tested. And just on paper, just on like the default performance on the server thus far that we've seen, I like Boston 3-1.
Yiska?
Yeah, I think Boston.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, my gut feeling is like, I'm not sure. Like,
Ping.
I just
True.
Ping, but also like, I feel it's that it could be a good match. I still think Boston has a lot to prove.
I want London to win.
So
I mean, so do I. I want them to perform well. I think they can, but Boston, I still think is a little. They have some stuff to show. I think they have something to live up to, and they need to. This is the match. This is the must win for them. If they don't win against London, oh boy, that's rough. Because that's a gimme. That's kind of a gimme.
Yep. Okay, well, that's, I think, roughly it for what's coming up this next week. Lots of good matches. Make sure to come tune in for our watch parties. We're doing them whenever games are live. There's likely people in the Discord, discord.me/tacticalcrouch, where you can come watch, chat, or just listen to the, I want to say smart commentary, but it ends up devolving into something very different. But, it's still fun. Come hang out, grab a drink, bring a sandwich. I don't care what you do. Come hang out.
Breakfast. Come have breakfast with me, because I'm just waking up. So either way, hang out.
Nice.
Big thank you to our patron producers again: Refined Bean, Ferdino, Battlecrab Lotion, Rex Zane, Sir Girthalot, Porkchop Sammy, Kosh67, Shar, Nathan, Your Misery, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Chris R34444, Bronzebot, Boohow, and Hotel Bravo 11. Thank you for supporting the show. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. It's a great way to support, and we appreciate all of our patrons. Another great way to support is to subscribe right here at twitch.tv/Kickedtripod. Thanks to Blorgan for the new sub, and resubs Twin Pete, Sickles, Ashador, Fusselkafer, Coppers, and Hoagies. Thanks so much again for doing that.
Hungry.
I know. I'm actually really hungry right now. And I want a sandwich.
I feel that.
A hoagie.
I want a sub.
Good.
But yeah. Joe, what's going on this week? Where can people find you?
I guess first off, glad to have John back. Dad's home. We're not running around with our heads cut off. Glad, things are going well in your neck of the woods, or at least seems like it. So glad to have you back. I have started small return to YouTube with some under a minute analysis breakdowns. Fuck, they're hard. You really don't. It's a fast game, so I've tried to tailor the format to like really bite-sized edible stuff. So go check that out if you're interested in maybe a breakdown of your favorite team or a play that you thought was cool. Check that out. Some stuff in the works when it comes to writing. That's about it.
Is there any way to get rid of the YouTube recommendations? Because I feel like 50% of your video just has these.
Yeah. It's gone. I didn't even think of that. They're all gone.
Okay.
I've removed
this. Right, sweet. Sweet.
What?
Yep. So like the end cards on YouTube, they're only like the videos are only a minute long. So like half
God.
So it's just like default really... brain, like get the stuff out there, make the people click. Yeah. And half the content is just blocked by like, hey, watch this.
It's just like you watch like Joe spends like 30 seconds building up the case for why something is good. And then you basically the blind is shut and you go like, oh, let me see the conclusion. Like,
you're peering through a window. It's bad. Yeah. I woke up to that. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's not good.
Yiska, what about you? What's going on this week?
Post-match interviews. Check out the ones I did last week. We're trying to get more this week. It's of course challenging because like there's a lot of pressure on players for the first tournament as well. Nobody really wants to do losers interviews in esports, but maybe I will get those. Honestly, like I almost like if it isn't like a tournament final post match, then I almost prefer the losers match because they tell you how much someone cares. And the losers interview that JJANGGU gave me 2 weeks ago is still one of my favorite interviews I've ever done with a player in esports. Hope to get more of those. I think it's also greatly in the interest that we demonstrate to people just how much this means to our professionals.
True.
So it always helps. And yeah, that's the type of content that's coming out. Get some dope YouTube content coming out soon for GG Recon.
Oh yeah.
About a very topical player at the moment. We kind of lucked into that one. So yeah, like that's what we're up to.
Cool. As for me, I'm finally back, and I'm probably gonna post a YouTube video in the next week or so, doing another microphone review. So I'll be doing that. Nothing cool on the esports front. Jake, follow me everywhere at Kickedtripod, and yeah. That's going to do it for us, chat. Thanks for hanging out. Had a ton of fun. It's good to be back. We'll see you next Wednesday for episode 173, or we will see you over the weekend for some watch parties. Bye.